All right, everyone, I am here with Anne Molesky. My name is Victoria Bowler, and today on Teaching Music Tomorrow, we are kind of expanding the last 3 episodes that we did on rhythmic arranging, and now we're going to kind of level up the conversation and talk about something that is, perhaps, you might disagree with me, and we can talk about it, perhaps a little bit more hairy, perhaps a little bit more scary, perhaps a little bit more difficult for students to kind of quantify, and that is melodic arranging. One of the things that we talked about in the last episodes was this kind of this dance between what the teacher is arranging on behalf of the students in terms of the structure and what students themselves are arranging in class in terms of like taking musical material and changing the order or making some sort of creative decision with the musical material, in this case the melodic material. And talk to me about melodic arranging and how you work with it in your teaching.
Yeah, so it's funny that you said that it might be hairy or scary, because my first sentence in the notes that I was writing says melodic arranging feels scary in parentheses to me, because it's reliant on so many things. So if we look back to or can be, I should say, reliant on so many things. So if we go back to the rhythm stuff that we were doing the last couple of episodes, and if you haven't listened to that, that might be a good place to start, because I have a feeling that this is going to really build, as you mentioned, on what we talked about in previous episodes, or level up, if you will. Just because when we talk about rhythmic arranging, it's easier to grab like a snippet of text or, something with steady beat and do some things that are pretty natural, I think, both for us and for kids, to start kind of playing around with and add different layers. But melody is a lot more multifaceted, right? So you're talking about things that will rely on what tonal center we have and what tone set we're working with, what the kids know, what the kids don't know, what the intervals are, how big the intervals are, and so on and so forth. But I think one of the best ways to make it accessible, and what you'll see in my activities, and I'm sure in yours, is that melodic stuff can be tied to what we do with rhythm, and so that it makes it more accessible. It gives us and our kids something to hold on to as we're creating and arranging and all of that good stuff. So yes, you can keep them separate. You can keep melody a little bit more abstract, right? You can kind of do it in free time without meter and without rhythm, absolutely. But since we are talking about arranging, I think it's going to lean more toward like being within that structure. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, something that I want to pull out of what you said is this idea of the aural skills and how important aural skills are in melodic arranging. And I want to get to your activity because I'm curious about what you're going to do. But just very quickly, if we're talking about melodic arranging, we might be talking about vocal arranging, where we're using our voice and therefore our ears in a huge way to create some of these melodic contour or melody-based decisions. The other thing that you could do is make it more instrumental based with like a recorder or a barred instrument or something like that. And that is still absolutely arranging and still certainly requires some sense of aural skill, or it could, it depends on how the activity is framed. But when we're asking students to just use their voices, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we get a lot of information about how they're kind of working with, we might say audiating if we wanted to borrow that term, how they're making sense of and making predictions and doing all of this aural work with arranging. So why don't we, unless you want to add something to that, why don't we jump into yours?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to be, my hand is up, as you often say, and also like my first activity will show that I think the easiest place for us to go with melodic arranging, or, anything with like a tone set, if you will, is is barred instruments, because it does feel like a little bit separate depending on how you set it up. And again, like when it comes to melodic arranging, a lot of times we think about like some more Orff Schulwerk inspired stuff that might have lots of different barred instrument things going on, which again, like I'm going to be showing that. And then as we get into the different levels, because this is going to be a 3-part series, just like we did with rhythm, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about things vocally. So I'm gonna save my singing discussion for next episode.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm gonna talk mostly about barred instruments right now. Okay, so
Awesome.
I am kind of going to do a similar deal where I'm going to stick with one song through all three levels, I think, at least for these first two. And I'm going to go with a Peas Porridge Hot, which I am like really living in kindergarten and first grade land right now. You know, Victoria Knight, she's working hard on like planning binder stuff for the new year, and I'm working hard on like Kodai level stuff, and we're talking about rep, but I am just like super into
and you're doing Kodai level one.
Yeah, pedagogy one. So I'm like really living it. But anyway, so Pease Porridge Hot is a big rest song for me, and it's also a big ostinato song for me, which lends itself perfectly, as I mentioned in all of my stuff with Apple Tree, with rhythmic arranging for melodic arranging, right? Anything with an ostinato, anything with just kind of those repeated layers, I think can be a really, really great place to start. So the way that I sing the song is this. Peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot, 9 days old. Some like it hot, some like it cold, some like it in the pot, 9 days old. So I add a do there at the end. Yeah, I know everybody like writes their own melody to that. So mine's just like that 3 so mi do tone set there. And then the first experience that my kids have with ostinato is soup. And so they have a bowl of soup. So Victoria, can you get a bowl of soup out for me? And you're going to say soup. You're going to set the soup down, and then you're going to blow on that soup because it's a little hot and we want to be able to eat it. And if you're anything like my 3-year-old, if anything is not like lukewarm, it's steaming hot and will burn your mouth like the fires of you know what. Anyway, that's probably not appropriate to say on our podcast, but anyway. All right, so here we go. So we're going to have our bowl of soup, and then we're going to blow on it. So we have soup, soup, soup. Here I go. Peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot, 9 days old. Some like it hot, some like it cold, some like it in the pot, 9 days old. Yeah, and with our leg right there. Yeah, great. So Victoria was keeping that soup, blowing on the soup, ta, rest, ostinato throughout, right? So then that can easily transfer to a soup with a clap. And then I like to put rest, this is an aside, rest on shoulders so that kids can feel it instead of putting it out into oblivion to the sides. That's something that I saw in Budapest when we went and observed the singing schools there a couple years ago. Is that was like a huge aha moment. They always put their rest on their shoulders so that they can feel it. And so I started doing that after I saw it. That way it's not, like I said, just some abstract thing. So that moves then to a ta rest on the shoulders. And then that's a really, really natural progression to the instruments. But something that I like to do first is to turn it into a circle clap. So you have soup, soup, and there's like a little bit of that pulse kind of out so that kids can feel the space, okay? So they can feel the space, because what tends to happen when we go to the instruments and we keep a steady beat on the instruments is they go faster and faster and faster and faster. So if we can get used to feeling that space through a circle clap away from the mallets, I think that is really, really meaningful. So this is kind of like some extraneous stuff, but it's important. So we start with that soup blowing, we move to the clap shoulder, then we go to the circle clap, then we go to just mallets on the floor. Okay, and then when my kids are ready, because we're talking first grade, this is likely a first experience for a lot of kids with the mallets if I haven't done a whole lot of steady beat at the instruments with kindergarten. But mallets on the barred instruments, I usually wait till about end of first grade, truly. So that's where this kind of lands for me. So then once we get the mallets there on the barred instruments, I'm looking for that same ostinato. So still that soup with the space or the rest. And they either have their mallet on C and G or C and C or whatever our do happens to be. I'm sure I didn't sing it in C. And I'm telling them the letters because I'm not necessarily focused on do and so in terms of that as a curricular goal, but I'm just trying to get at them having an experience with more melodic interest with the vocabulary that they do know, right? And that's, again, maybe a larger conversation as it always seems to be. But so then they have that simple ostinati. And that's something that we can keep right there, and then just sing our Pease Porridge Hot over top of it. So they've gone from having just this kind of big macro beat or ta rest ostinato into doing it with mallets, and then it gets them on to the instruments, right? And so if they have a mallet here and a mallet here, and they're keeping that steady beat, singing the song, the next thing we can do if they're ready, is maybe change it a little bit. So what's a kind of soup, Victoria, that we could do?
Let's see. I'm trying to do, because we did this activity once, and I'm trying not to repeat the soup that I said. I like she crab soup.
She crab soup. Oh, okay, cool. So she crab soup. So what's a way that we could play she crab soup, and then maybe go she crab soup, or she crab soup, or she crab soup, however you want to play with those two mouths, or it could be together, and I can't sing two notes at the same time. So however Victoria chooses to show me how to play she crab soup, then I'd go ahead and we'd all do that together and sing that over top. Okay. So that's just a really simple way to get into a layer, because again, we're talking about melodic arranging level 1. So for me, that means like, what's the easiest way for kids to have an experience with vocabulary that they do know, hearing some texture, right? And maybe that's the key word there. And for first grade, it's melodic arranging. If they know do and so, like, yes, we could do some things with that, but we're still adding in that texture and that experience of something a little bit more complicated using vocabulary that they do know. And for me, I think that that's really a worthwhile venture, even though they can't necessarily derive everything and like notate it perfectly with formal notation. It's still an opportunity to have that experience. So
yeah, so one of the ways, I love that. That's so cute. And I actually like that we've done this activity with something else. I don't remember what we were talking about. That's okay. No. I think it's great, because we were doing something like you took the same starting point, but then today you went like a different direction with it. And so I think that's super valuable. And it ties back into what you're saying of, so much of what we do melodically is going to be housed in what we're doing rhythmically, right? And the other thing to pull from what you're talking about is a lot of times, this is just a great example of something that we've been kind of dancing around previously as well. A lot of times when we think of like composition or arranging or some of these like loftier, scarier, high level things, it's like, well, we're going to wait until we do the arranging unit in 5th grade when they know everything, and then they'll be able to do it, right? And you were saying that part of the pathway to doing any sort of melodic work is being able to take these two elements, in this case, like a high sound and a low sound, and students get to mix and match them however their little right hands and little left hands want to do. And it's that's the tinkering process that lets them figure out what the differences are between this high sound and the low sound, right? They get to play with it on their own, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing. So like, even though like the specific vocabulary isn't there, to talk about what they're creating, they can differentiate. Just like you said, we've talked about high versus low in kindergarten. They can describe things in a way that's meaningful to them, but that allows them to create, right? Which is the whole point. So yeah, it's just kind of an easy way, and hopefully this is something that could be kind of dragged and dropped on a lot of things, right? You just find like a word or like a set of words, again, that kind of serves as your scaffold with even these little guys, just getting used to hearing something different. Yeah. So that later on, when you want to add even more, this is already a concept that's kind of in their backpacks, right? Ready to pull out.
For sure. Yeah, and your teaching process is exploration, discovery, extension. And this is big exploration energy in terms of the melodic piece of it, for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Love it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's stay in lower elementary. That was fun, Anne. I like that a lot. That's super cute. Let's stay in lower elementary, and we can either do Starlight, Starbright, or we can do By and By. And it doesn't matter which one. We can pick whatever star melody or, whatever, even like a lullaby, anything that has to do with high and low. So let's do Starlight, Starbright. And Anne, I wonder if you and I sing it the same way, if you add la or if you keep it all so and me, but it's fine. Here we go. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. Wish I may, wish I might, have the wish I wish tonight. And do you know what I saw when I was looking out the window? I saw a shooting star. Ooh. All kindergarten is using their voice to copy me, and you can be my kindergartner. My turn first. Ooh. Your turn. Ooh. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. Wish I may, wish I have the wish I wish tonight. Do you know what the next star was doing? Ooh.
Ooh. I think I missed a ooh in there.
You're good. Star bright, first star I see, wish I may, wish I have the wish I wish tonight. The next star went like this. Ooh.
Ooh. I haven't had enough coffee yet to remember these things.
We're always earlier for you than we are for me because of the time change. Okay, excellent. That was so fun. Kindergarten, do you remember a couple classes ago that we were doing all of this movement of the stars shooting around? And I recall that some of us were even able to make our own shooting star ideas that the rest of the class was copying. Oh, that has been so fun that we've been doing that for a couple classes. Now, let me show you something. First star I see tonight, wish I wish I had the wish I wish tonight. Let's do this one together. Put your voice on the star. Here we go. Ooh. Star I see, wish I may, wish I had the wish I wish tonight. Here we go. Ooh. Wish I may, I had the wish I wish tonight. Here we go. Ooh. Skip ahead to this one. Oh my goodness gracious. Here we go. Ooh. We have a couple more. Here we go. Ooh. Last one. Ooh. And that was so fun when we got to do all of those different star movements. I picked 4 of my favorites. Let's do this one together. We'll just do them all in order. So first this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. And kindergarten can watch my finger and I'll help us know where to go. Here we go. Let's do it together. Ooh. 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 And which one was your favorite? Option 1, 2, 3, or 4. Say it again, sorry.
That one. The one at the end.
The one at the end. Correct. That one is the favorite. So let's do that one 4 times in a row. That will be so fun. And do you want to do this one by yourself or do you want to do it together?
I want to do it together.
Excellent choice. You're correct. Here we go. And by the way, this is open to interpretation. It's okay if we're not all singing the exact same pitch, and it's okay if some voices are a little bit more wiggly than others. The point is not uniformity. The point is the vocal exploration.
Right.
Okay, here we go. Ooh, that was fun. Anne has called on her friend Xander, and Xander is going to replace 2 of them. And Xander came to the board, and Xander chose this one and this one. Ooh, that's a fun idea. Let's try it together. Here we go. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, that was so fun. Do you remember kindergarten a couple classes ago that we were all doing these vocal exploration cards together? That was so fun. Now I have these printed out, and you, with your one music friend, you may choose any combination of 4 cards. You're allowed to repeat cards. If you have one favorite, you could use it the same card all 4 times. You could do a different card every single time, but you get to choose with your one music friend which 4 cards you want to do to create your own shooting star song. If I know that teamwork is going to be an issue already, because at this age, we're learning how to move from this is what I want and so I do it to this is what I want and this is what someone else wants and this is how we co-create it together. Like, that's a huge skill. So I can decide that this is a learning opportunity for that social relation building skill, or I can say we're not there yet. It just totally depends. But this is the process. We have Starlight, Starbright. We're doing some echoing back and forth. And then eventually students are creating their own patterns by arranging these vocal exploration cards that I give them.
Yeah, I love it. I love how you took what I said earlier, just blew it out of the water about how I was like, oh, it's usually tied to a rhythmic something or other.
I was laughing when you said that, and I was like, it totally is. Sometimes it's not. But your point stands, and I think that's something that we'll definitely talk about probably in future conversations here.
No, I think, well, but the point being, like, for example, in my activity, it's dependent on like playing with another part, right?
Yes.
Where you're talking about taking some musical ideas and arranging them where they'll kind of be like a solo or a unison type activity, which is maybe the difference there. But what I love about this is it's kindergarten, so that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And then, but also the fact that like this is vocal exploration, which is like the first thing on my curriculum map for kindergarten, and look what we're already doing, right? And so this idea, this came back in our rhythm stuff too, where it's like you took the vocal explorations as a B section, and then all of that like stuff that was happening kind of as the interlude for another song turned into the creative activity. And you could go back then too, right? Like we're always talking about how this could keep going.
Yep.
And like each individual group's vocal exploration star songs could be the B section for a class rondo with Starlight Star. You know, you could always go back to that large scale form, and it could definitely be something that you shared, right? So, I mean, there's always that opportunities, and I'm sure there's a star book that you could put with it. Like you could get some scarves out and do something, you know what I mean? You could, there's just like the possibilities are endless. So I love that so much. Yeah,
I like it too. And as I was doing it, I was like, oh, Anne's gonna love this activity. This is such an Anne activity. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, if you're doing Codai level 1 with me in a few weeks, buckle up.
That's right. That's funny. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk more next time about some ways that we could kind of extend these ideas. I'll tell you right now. Well, maybe I'll save it. No, I'll tell you right now. You're doing like one work and you're stretching it out for several episodes. I am doing one process. This is going to be the same process, but we're going to see it at different grade levels. It kind of spiral up. So I'm a one trick pony for this, but boy, it's.
But I'm really the one. I'm the one trick pony. I'm doing the same song over and over again.
But I do it to, like, both you and I, we do it to illustrate that one idea. There's so much there. Right? So like whether you're extending it for 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks or 3, 4 weeks at a time through multiple different grade levels, like these experiences are layered, and it's so much more. It's so much more than echo me. It's so much more than sing the song and play the game. Like there's a whole world here with melodic arranging.
Yeah. So stay tuned.